Yo guys, Vision SGN here, bringing you more Marvel Rivals content. In today's video, I'll be bringing you the top 3 dive heroes in the game right now as of Season 1.5 update, and in this video, I'll begin explaining all of the reasons as to why each character makes it into this top 3, whilst also addressing the purpose of the series, as I do think it's important that all players understand that there's more than just the 3 basic categories and many different playstyles for each of the heroes in this game, and not just the basic Vanguard, Duelist, and Strategist playstyles. So, on that note, let's get right into it. Now, as for the top 3 dive heroes and the purpose of this series, just before I explain this list, I begin ranking my top 3. I just wanted to further address what I meant about subcategories of heroes and why I think this series will be great at providing more detail for each hero and what category they fall into, but also what subcategories they are best fit for. Now, for example, Duelist, right? If I was to ask you, or you ask yourself, who are the best or top 3 duelists in the game right now, the opinion or that list will change depending on various different reasons. Are we talking about the best ranged, dive, aerial, high DPS damaging duelists? It changes, right? And that's why I think this series will be useful, as many different players don't quite understand that each character or each duelist, for example, fits into a different criteria than the next. And from my opinion and my own experience, there are various different characters that excel in certain categories. And then when it comes down to your competitive lineups, for all my comp players out there, you need to understand that there are so many different roles and different playstyles that just work and don't work in certain lineups. And if you don't understand who the best 3 or have an idea on who the best dive characters are, for an example, then you're going to struggle to understand how that character fits into a system and where they excel and where they are weak. So as for dive heroes, this is typically heroes with high mobility and the ability to quickly pressure the backline, disrupt supports or squishy targets such as duelists, eliminating them and then being able to escape. Now, dive heroes are crucial for creating chaos on the map, removing those key targets, and as well as flanking and having both close range and ranged abilities. Now, following the latest update, here are the top 3 dive heroes in the game. And as you'll see on the screen, we have Black Panther coming in at number 3 due to both his speed and burst attacks, which make him a standout dive hero. Now, both his Vibranium Slash and his Pounce abilities allow him to close distances fast between him and the enemy, which deals between 100 to 150 damage per combo, and with his Kinetic Spear, which is also a good ranged ability, leaves enemies vulnerable and easy to kill. His ultimate, the Spirit of the Panther, boosts his speed and damage by 200 plus per leap, and it lets him chain eliminations and being able to wipe out an entire team when timed correctly by himself. He has a base health of 300 HP, which is pretty high for a duelist, and with his ability cooldowns that reset upon getting kills, means he thrives with aggressive dives, and his key strengths are based on agility, burst DPS, and ability reset potential, which makes him one of the most deadliest dive heroes in the game, and is often banned at the higher levels in competitive due to players just not having many counters or can't be bothered to deal with this character, and he causes so many issues. Now, coming in at number 2 on this list is Magik. Although her portals are situational, which is arguably what makes her less consistent than other dive characters, she is definitely a top 3 in my opinion, and second best. From my own experience, a good Magik player is very difficult to deal with, more so than others, but purely from a dive and executioner point of view, she's extremely effective at diving on the backline, removing those squishy players with ease, and with her one-hit combo capabilities, as well as being able to sustain really well, and with both her evasion and agility, she's also able to escape from crowded areas with ease, making it very hard to counter her and also to track down and eliminate. Now, I've seen a Magik player many times before break down our entire backline in crucial moments, which entirely delays our pace of the game, but also, more importantly, the player also manages to get away and then regroup with the team, which creates a numbers disadvantage, and this happens quite often, to be honest. As a Vanguard player myself, there's been many times where I can count where me and another teammate are fighting off 2 to 4 players, and eventually we manage to remove one of the enemy team supports, and typically this should give you the advantage. However, then the enemy team, when they have a Magik, spontaneously comes out of nowhere and ends up removing both of my strategists, and then it becomes a staggered push, or the team has no heals and therefore very vulnerable, and this is just why she's so good, as she's really effective at removing those players, those key players, and when you pair her with the likes of Black Panther, with the team-up abilities, when the 2 of them are on the team together, they become so much more unstoppable, and arguably the best 2 pairing in the game when it comes to diving. And this is why she comes in at number 2 on the list, especially when the other team doesn't have a counter dive, such as Namor. She can run riot on your enemy team, or your own team, depending on if you're playing against her or with her. Now, coming in at number 1 is none other than Spider-Man himself, aka Peter Parker. Now, this hero is the bane of my existence. Even though I am a tank main myself, he's always causing so many issues and staggering my team's pace, as he's now the most viable dive hero in the game right now, in my opinion, following the latest update. With his insane speed, using his web sling and his web zip abilities, this allows him to traverse the map with ease, dive in backline with minimal consequences, and being able to pick off squishy players, but also being really effective at separating players from the grouped areas. And anytime he can deal group damage, he is a really effective kid player. He deals great crowd control damage via his ultimate, as well as his team up with Venom, and also has that great knockback ability, which allows him to take out players with ease. Now, Spider-Man also has a crazy burst damage via his combos of abilities, which allows him to use his primary attack, and alongside other abilities combined together, makes it really easy for him to quickly eliminate squishy players with any health between 200 and 250. And Spider-Man himself has a 300 base health, and due to his agility and evasive capabilities, he's extremely hard to counter and track down, and is one of the strategist's worst nightmare, if not number one. Now, there are some people out there that don't believe he's that effective. I can promise you now, you have not played against the best version of this character. Anyone that's good at playing him is pretty much impossible to deal with in console, unless you have multiple players on your team trying to counter him, which is basically proving the point that he's super effective and super annoying to deal with. Now, the likes of Cloak and Scarlet Witch can obviously counter him with their lock-on abilities, but for the most part, he seems to be so evasive and hard for them to track, it doesn't seem to necessarily counter him by any means, unless you have the likes of a Namor, who seems to be the most one-to-one combo to be able to outplay this character. However, most players at the higher level just ban Namor anyway, due to other diving characters wanting to be in the game. So for the most part, and in my own experience at the higher level, Spider-Man is a problem to deal with and number one in this game. Now, as usual with all of my videos, just before I wrap this one up, there are also some other keynotes I wanted to consider and mention just before finalizing this list. Now, as most dive heroes prioritize mobility and backline pressure over sustained frontline presence like tanks, it's definitely worth noting that although Venom is one of the best damage blocking heroes in the game, which I've actually just made a previous video on my channel, which is episode 1 in this series, he is also one of the best diving heroes in the game, and definitely top 5 in my opinion, due to his sustain, crowd control, and evasive abilities, so it's definitely worth mentioning him, as of course he is really effective at diving, and arguably top 3 of course, but due to his damage output being extremely reliant on landing critical hits, which aren't exactly easy to hit, and I find he's not that effective versus multiple players, whereas the likes of Magik and Black Panther are, I just don't see how he could be a top 3, but there's for you to argue. Also, just like Spider-Man, Psylocke also dominates the diving playstyle due to her agility and burst abilities, so she's also worth considering for sure, but I personally consider her one of the best hybrids in the game, as she's got great range and evasion, but she's not better suited to survive when she's stunned or teamed up on by other teams when they have counter dives. She's slightly less effective at diving in my opinion than the top 3, and therefore doesn't make this list, but seeing as she's one of the best hybrids, I'm actually going to be making an upcoming video soon on the best hybrids in the game. Now also, just on this, as for the likes of Wolverine and Iron Fist, I couldn't make this list without mentioning them. Similar to Black Panther, they both excel in raw damage, but rely more on other teammates, making them more dependent, as they typically need other teammates to follow them up, which makes them slightly less effective than the others in this list at diving. But also, they're more effective at destroying tanks, and in this current meta, a lot of teams only use one Vanguard hero, or they use two, but one of them is more evasive, and therefore reduces the overall effectiveness of these characters. So I didn't think it was worth mentioning them in the top 3, but I also just don't believe they are more effective than the others in this list anyways. But anyways, there you have it. That's my top 3 dive heroes in Marvel Rivals as of right now, following the latest update. But also some of other considerations for you guys to debate on. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know down below if there's anyone that you would change in this list, and let me know reasons why. I'm Visionist Jen, and I'll see you in the next one.